The moment the man attacked, someone from the black market sensed it. They immediately tried to stop him, but they were helpless. The man was too strong and the guards of the black market were only hunters. They couldn't even retaliate against a single wave of sword chi. What's that? The interstellar arbitration? Not good. Run. Who offended the interstellar arbitration? Who brought disaster to this place? Sir, please stop. This place is under the protection of Chaos God Mountain. Please be merciful. The planet's core was being washed away by magma, and with the addition of countless cracks in the void, it was like the end of the world. After another wave of sword chi, the man slowly said, "The Supreme Tournament will be held in the Chaos Flow Zone. Under the head arbiter's orders, I'm here to clean up the Chaos Flow Zone." The man's words echoed through the planet's core and countless people wailed. Why is the Supreme Tournament being held in the Chaos Flow Zone? What should we do? Let's run. We'll hide in the other flow zones until the Supreme Tournament is over. Who came up with the idea to hold the Supreme Tournament in the Chaos Flow Zone? Does Chaos God Mountain agree? Brother, stop dreaming. The Hall of Honor is the organizer of the Supreme Tournament. Can't you see that Chaos God Mountain has the right to object? Chaos God Mountain is probably having a headache right now. Chaos God Mountain was indeed having a headache. Zhou glared at Mu'en with grief and indignation. Why should Chaos God Mountain maintain order? Clean up the darkness? If we do that, who in the Chaos Flow Zone will give us face in the future? Mu'en smiled. This is an order from the Hall of Honor. Sect Master Tsang, you'd better cooperate. Otherwise, the next person to talk to you won't be me but the head arbiter. Zhou gritted his teeth. Fine, you guys are ruthless. Mu'en smiled bitterly. The Supreme Tournament has been decided to be held in the Chaos Flow Zone. Nobody can do anything about it. Sect Master Tsang, please accept it. The Outerverse has already been gifted to the 6th mainland. What's there that I can't figure out? Zhou said unhappily. Mu'en shook his head. There are some things that no one can decide. I don't know the details either. As the leader of one of the Interverse 8 Great Flow Zones, he didn't even know why a tournament was being held in the Chaos Flow Zone. Zhou helplessly looked in the direction of the Neoverse. Only by establishing a foothold there would he have the right to speak. He suddenly thought of Luin. That junior had left a deep impression on him. He was just a junior, but he had forced them to give up on the plan to open the portal. Now he had even defeated the Blaze Realm and entered the Interverse. His goal should be the Neoverse as well. Although he's a junior, his drive is something that we old fellows don't have. Zhou sighed. Only Chaos God Mountain could purge the Chaos Flow Zone in the shortest amount of time. As the master of the Chaos Flow Zone, Chaos God Mountain understood the Flow Zone all too well. Chaos God Mountain had given the people of the Dark Realm 10 days to evacuate from the Chaos Flow Zone and then used the remaining 10 days to purge those who were unwilling to leave. In a total of 20 days, the Chaos Flow Zone had been purged. Although Chaos God Mountain was hated by countless people and was mocked for being the Hall of Honor's lackey, this had nothing to do with the Hall of Honor. On the second day after the purge of the Chaos Flow Zone, Mount Supreme appeared. Zhou sighed in amazement when he saw the majestic and imposing mountain not too far away. Mount Supreme was a mountain, but it was made of a type of stone called Taika. Taika stone was known as the hardest stone, and its hardness was comparable to many metals used to make weapons. Even a hunter would find it difficult to leave a mark on a Taika stone. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 1243. Some lists included all of the 10 arbiters and were called the top 10. Others included the Tearing Girl, Quiet Weep, and Autumn Sure. There were even some lists that kicked Luin out, with the reason being that no matter how talented a hunter was, it was impossible for him to stand out among so many enlightened geniuses. They believed that Luin had only been able to defeat the 10 arbiters because none of them had broken through. The Supreme Tournament was about to begin, and anyone who could break through would do so. Luin had just become a hunter, so it was obviously impossible for him to break through to the enlightened realm. It had to be said that many people believed this explanation. Of course, Luin was not the only one who had been kicked out. Almost all of the 10 arbiters had been kicked out of that list. Even Neoverse, Quiet Weep, and Feather Mavis had been kicked out, leaving only the Prime Clear and Xia Jiuyo. One had 3 Yang's ancestral chi while the other had 9 clones technique. There was also someone who had unexpectedly been named one of the top 10 seats, Starsabil, who had also cultivated the 9 clones technique. There were all sorts of lists and it was possible to find hundreds or even thousands of rankings at once. However, no matter which list it was, Lu Yin's ranking was not high because he was only a hunter. Even though his battle results were brilliant and he had been recognized as the past master by the Hall of Honor, his realm was still his shortcoming. The ones who were the angriest about these lists were not Lu Yin, but rather Ku Wei and Elder Tan. The former was constantly praising Lu Yin and thinking of ways to slander the people who had made these lists, making Lu Yin seem invincible in the universe. The latter had people crazily singing Lu Yin's praises on the internet. The appearance of these lists was like a slap to their faces, and they were so angry that they wanted to find the people who had made these lists. Ku Wei walked over to Lu Yin and scolded the people who had made these lists in a cynical manner. "Seventh bro, those stupid mortals don't understand how strong you are. They actually put you below Xia Jiuyo and Wu Taibai. What a joke. How can a beast like the Star Devourer be ranked above you? It's an insult to the Great Eastern Alliance." Ku Wei roared. Lu Yin flipped through the different lists. Indeed, although he was listed as one of the top 10 seeds in most of the lists, he was not one of the top seeds. Almost all of the prime clears were the strongest seeds. Next to the prime clears were Wu Taibai, Bukong Ji, Xia Jiuyo and the others. Every name list was different, but they all provided sufficient evidence. Being able to become one of the top 10 seeds amongst the countless geniuses of the same generation in the universe was already a great achievement, and even the 10 arbiters would find it difficult to achieve such a feat. However, this was not an exaggeration based on Lu Yin's battle records. It was a pity that his public image had always been based on external factors. The only glorious battle records that he could bring out were his victories over Lan Si and Night King Jinwu, but these two achievements were not enough for him to be recognized by everyone. At the very least, he had only been a spectator in the battle at the Sinew Eternal Mountain and Sea Realm. With Seventh Brother's strength, even if you don't take first place, you'll definitely be in the top 10. Seventh Brother Little Wei, I've already mobilized a lot of our people to bet that you'll definitely enter the top 10. The odds are 1 to 2, which is quite high. Don't worry, Little Wei will definitely support you, Ku Wei said resolutely. Lu Yin had been looking at the list, but when he heard Ku Wei's words he was stunned. Back when he had moved the entire Endless Weave, Master Yuan and the others had not been able to discover him. Even now, Lu Yin could not fathom what level of power Mr. Mu had reached. If not for the fact that there were no progenitors in the Fifth Mainland, Lu Yin would have thought that Mr. Mu was a progenitor. Elder Chan's attitude also made Lu Yin speculate. Since you've cultivated such a power, my request for you in this sovereign tournament is to become the champion. If you fail, you will be expelled from the sect, Mr. Mu said. Lu Yin was shocked. Expelled from the sect? Master, this disciple's use of death energy is still insufficient. If that's the case, then hurry up and use it. You have time to operate the bets, but you don't have time to cultivate? Mr. Mu asked. Lu Yin had no choice but to lower his head. He was confident that he could become the champion, but the others were not to be trifled with either. The Prime clears 3 young ancestral Qi, the Astral Beast Domain's Star Devourer, the Celestial Beast Empire's Crown Prince Yao Xian, and the 6th Mainland's Dao Source 3 Skies. None of them were easy to deal with and they were all Enlighters. Lu Yin could not use the time-stop space to break through to the Enlighter realm. If he did, the others would definitely suspect something. You have to look at the long term. What you see might not be all of your enemies and your opponents might not be what you can see right now. Mr. Mu said something that Lu Yin did not understand. He then pressed a hand against Lu Yin's chest and rotated his other hand to the right. Before Lu Yin could react, he felt a burning sensation in his chest, and his heart felt like it was on fire. He did not resist and allowed Mr. Mu to do as he pleased. Only a few seconds passed, but Lu Yin felt like several years had passed. Hot beads of sweat dripped from his forehead onto the ground, and he could even hear the sound. Mr. Mu withdrew his hand. Unless. Switching Day Night seemed to have thought of something. Duan Day Night answered seriously, unless this person has an innate gift as mysterious as Night King Qingyu's, which allows him to ignore space. Switching Day Night answered, Lu Xiaoga should be in East San Dios in the Outerverse. I'll immediately send someone to capture him. Duan Day Night nodded. There was irrefutable evidence that Lu Xiaoga had stolen the Day Night clan's inheritance stone, so how could they just let the matter rest? When the inheritance stone had been stolen by Night King Qingyu, the Day Night clan had not been worried at all. They had been confident that no one in the universe would dare to covet their inheritance stone. Now, however, they needed to send someone to search for it and they could not do it in the name of Zhang Yang. The Outerverse had already closed its doors to the Day Night clan, and they knew that if news of them sending someone into the Outerverse spread, the Great Eastern Alliance would definitely interfere. that Lu Yin had long since become their mortal enemy. The two did not bring this up and they both pretended not to know anything. They did not want to admit that the Day-Night clan had completely declined. In the Blaze realm, after Mr. Mu disappeared, Lu Yin began his final seclusion before the Sovereign Tournament. This time he was really going into seclusion as the Sovereign Tournament was approaching. Although he did not pay attention to the Sovereign Tournament, he knew that the outside world was in an uproar. The Sovereign Tournament had shaken both the 5th and 6th mainlands, and he did not know how many experts would be drawn out. He still needed to continue improving himself. Mr. Mu's words were still echoing in his ears. Invisible enemies and invisible opponents? Would they appear in this Sovereign Tournament? Lu Yin looked up and saw his die appear. He took a deep breath and tapped it, causing it to slowly spin before finally stopping. 5 pips, borrowing an innate gift. This was meaningless as he would not be able to find anyone with an innate gift within 10 seconds. Lu Yin thought about it and rolled the die again. 4 pips, time stop space. After entering, Lu Yin's heart settled down. With his current wealth he could stay here for a long time. He raised the time limit to 240 days and then took out the Heaven Flame Stone. Although he could not break through to the Enlighter realm, the Heaven Flame Stone could absorb high temperatures from the flames and the star essence on his body would allow him to upgrade it a few times. Currently, the Heaven Flame Stone had absorbed the Dark Phoenix clan's 16th level of Black Flames, Eccentric Chi's Great Fire God, Madame Lan's Scorching Sun, and Crimson Lord's Great Fire God. The rest of the flames had already been consumed. Lu Yin gripped the Heaven Flame Stone, and as the high temperature imprinted itself onto his arm, the burning pain of his flesh assaulted him once more. In front of him, the burning star essence quickly transformed into a red barrier that enveloped him. Master Hong's Fire God was here, and this was the highest temperature that the Heaven Flame Stone could absorb, which was about the same as the 16th layer of black flames. The two types of flames that could rival the power of an emissary burned at high temperatures, and Lu Yin's skin began to crack. The rate at which he absorbed star energy increased as well. Even though he had mastered a shortcut, not everyone could use it. For example, using the Heaven Flame Stone to absorb star energy would cause even an ordinary enlighter to melt under the high temperatures. Only Lu Yin's physical strength could withstand it, and this shortcut was both painful and enjoyable. During the Planet Pyrolite competition, I also borrowed the Northline Flowzone's path. He paused and picked up the teacup on the table and swirled it around. But I don't know why the Northline Flowzone has been so hostile towards me recently. Northgate Taisue's eyes flashed. Hostile. Who did you hear that from, Alliance Master Lu? Lillian also looked at Lu Yin. Ku Wei, this chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. He shouted from behind Lu Yin. Old man, you're just playing dumb. Does our Highness need anyone to tell him? As long as His Highness wills it, nothing in the universe can be hidden from him. Northgate Taisui frowned, and his sharp gaze swept over Ku Wei as an enormous pressure descended upon him. Ku Wei's face turned red and he snorted coldly, but he still held his head high. Northgate Taisui was shocked. He had originally thought that this person was just a follower, but he had never expected Ku Wei to be able to withstand Northgate Taisui's pressure. Even Northgate Lai, the most elite of the Northline Flow Zone, could not do so. Northgate Taisui carefully sized up Ku Wei and was shocked. Little brother, where are you from? Ku Wei sneered with a look of disdain. Lu Yin scolded, Ku Wei, don't be rude to Senior Northgate. Northgate Taisui's brows rose when he heard Ku Wei's name. This surname was not simple. He sized up Ku Wei again, but he did not say anything. Instead he looked at Lu Yin. Alliance Master Lu, many things are just misunderstandings. You should understand the Northline Flow Zone's position. The Great Eastern Alliance's occupation of the Blaze Realm is indeed unsettling, and it will also bring about chaos. Lu Yin put down his teacup. So Senior wants the Great Eastern Alliance to withdraw from the Innerverse? Northgate Taisui hurriedly replied, Of course not, I'm just trying to clear up some misunderstandings. The Northline Flow Zone wishes to maintain good relations with Alliance Master Lu. Lillian spoke up from behind Northgate Taisui with a smile on her face. Alliance Master Lu, please believe in the Northline Flow Zone's sincerity. She then walked forward and respectfully handed a cosmic ring to Lu Yin. No one in the entire Northline Flow Zone understood Lu Yin better than Lily Ann. She was well aware of Lu Yin's desire for money. Lu Yin did not touch it, so Ku Wei took it and glanced at it before casually tossing it to Lily Ann. He spoke in a strange tone. "Pretty lady, you're from a small place like the Northline Flow Zone. Our Highness doesn't blame you for your lack of knowledge. You want to settle your grudges with a mere million-star essence?" Hee. Luin looked at Lily and smiled. "Miss Inera, we're old friends. There's no need for this. The Great Eastern Alliance will not initiate a war, so the Northline Flow Zone can rest assured." Lillian bowed to Luin. "I was rude. Please don't take offense, Alliance Master Lu." She then looked at Northgate Taisui. Northgate Taisui gave her a look. Lillian walked out, followed by Lily Shuer. She had a sweet smile on her face. She looked ordinary, but because she cultivated Genesis Chi all year round, she gave off an indescribable aura. She looked down at the foot of the mountain, where millions of young cultivators had gathered. They all wanted to pass this pass. Zi's eyes flashed. Most of these people were trash and did not have the qualifications to fight with her. However, there were top-notch experts among them, especially that woman called Chiu Shi. She had been there the entire time during the Cosmic Sea battle, but she had not used her true strength. The Tao Source 3 skies were publicly acknowledged as the future heavens of the 6th mainland. After this tournament, they would also become the future heavens of the 5th mainland. Compared to Zi, Bukong's thoughts were much simpler. He just wanted to teach the 5th mainland a lesson, but not here. Instead, he wanted to do it in the real tournament. He had absolute confidence that he would become the sole sovereign, and since that was the case, he might as well give these people a chance. Bukong's thoughts were not as mature as Zi's, and he was much more impulsive. However, compared to Bukong, more people would rather face Zi. This was because Bukong was a boundless advanced lockbreaker who had mastered sourcebox arrays. He looked young, but since he had been able to become one of the Tao Source 3 skies, the younger he was, the more outstanding his talent was. Bukong was guarding the southern pass and he looked down with a playful smile. "A bunch of ants. Whether or not they can pass will depend on my mood." At the eastern pass, Luin leaned against a wall like Yao Xian and quietly looked down. It was not easy to reach this position. More than 1,000,000 cultivators were competing, but less than half of them could actually break through. This was not only because of the difficulty of Mount Supreme itself, but also because of the competition between the other cultivators and the difficulty of the Pass Master. As the Pass Master, he could act as he pleased from above. If he wanted to, he could even attack the 1,000,000 cultivators below. More than 1,000,000 cultivators was a huge scale, but unfortunately, quantity could not make up for quality. Luin had never imagined that he would one day be able to watch top experts compete, including levitating Mavis and Lu Tianmo. He still remembered the unreachable expectations he had felt when he had first heard of the 10 Arbiters, but now the 10 Arbiters had to look up at him. There was no such thing as an eternal trough in life, and it all depended on one's own destiny. Luin dared to say that none of the other 10 Arbiters or the top geniuses of the Neoverse had experienced as many life-and-death situations as he had. There were a few times when he had truly died in exchange for what he had achieved today. However, he was not recognized by everyone as standing at the peak. As he thought about it, he looked up at the giant vertical pass. Shangqing was standing there quietly like a statue, surrounded by 3 streams of energy. He looked like a deity, but more importantly, he was still floating in the air. Luin pursed his lips. No one looked more like a god than this guy. He really knew how to act. Regardless of whether he admitted it or not, Shangqing was recognized by everyone as the strongest on the surface since he could summon progenitors from the same generation as him. No one dared to say that they could defeat a progenitor from the same generation, let alone 3. In particular, no one knew who the last progenitor was, which caused countless people to speculate. Only those who had participated in the Battle of the Mountain and Sea Realm could understand how helpless Shangqing was. The 3 sons' ancestral Chi's reputation of being invincible was not just for show. Yao Xin, Notkong, Zi, and even the people below them all wanted to fight for the Soul Prime, and the biggest obstacle was Shangqing. Luin exhaled. This arrow's power level exceeded 300,000, and it was one of the strongest attacks that the Eastern Mountain had ever sent out. It even surpassed Lu Tianmu's 5th sword. Emergence. Mavis frowned. Grass spread out from the ground and transformed into a giant fist that punched out. The Mavis family did not have much, but they had money and strength. The grass-formed fist collided with the arrow, causing the void to explode as a violent shockwave pressed down. Many participants cursed in anger, but they were still unable to avoid the attack and were sent flying by the terrifying pressure. A crack appeared on the mountain's ground. A power level that exceeded 300,000 was terrifying. The junior Arrow Saint stared at Emergence Mavis. Emergence Mavis picked up a rock from the ground and hurled it at the junior Arrow Saint. It was just a normal rock and the junior Arrow Saint should not have cared about it. However, at this moment he felt a chill run down his spine. Although the rock looked normal, it contained a huge amount of power and it was not just a small amount. The junior Arrow Saint narrowly avoided the rock as it smashed into the mountain peak, unable to withstand the force and shattering. The shattered rock fragments shot out in all directions, and a few participants who had been in the air were knocked back down. The fragments were powerful enough to tear through the void, and one of them even scratched the junior Arrow Saint's cheek. The junior Arrow Saint stared at Emergence Mavis in shock. This woman was actually so strong. He stared blankly at Emergence Mavis. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Mavis continued to charge up the mountain, and the junior Arrow Saint did not try to stop her as he had been intimidated. At the mountain pass, Luin pursed his lips. Emergence Mavis was the strongest person in the entire human race, not including himself. Luin clenched his fists as he watched Emergence Mavis charge at him. Let's see how many punches you can take. The battle between the most powerful individuals attracted the most attention, but most people were more concerned about the people who were related to them. In the Outerverse Southern Weave Astral 9, many students were watching a screen with worry. 3 people were fighting on the screen and 2 of them were from Astral 9. They were Astral 9's former leader, Luin and Chao Ji, who had participated in the Astral Combat Tournament and had been frozen for 30 years. At this moment, the 2 were working together against an enemy, who was Kaze, who had been guarding King Zishan's palace for Luin. Kaze had also arrived. As an expert who had once been in the top 80 of the top 100 rankings, he had been captured by Luin to guard King Zishan's palace. Even though the Innerverse and Outerverse had been reconnected, Kaze had not returned to the dire barbarian clan. This was not because he was loyal, but rather because he found Luin inconceivable. If there was anyone who understood Lu Yin's progress the most, it would be Kaze, who was the closest to Luin. He had seen Luin countless times over the years, and his innate gift was hearing, which allowed him to hear the vibrations in his opponent's body. Every time Luin returned to King Zishan's palace, Kaze would listen attentively, and what he heard was different each time. After a long period of time, Kaze had developed a new understanding of his physical body's strength and his battle techniques, and his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Now that he had broken through to the cruiser realm, he had far surpassed his original strength. He believed that he could rival the top 50 of the top 100 rankings, which was why he had dared to participate in the Sovereign Tournament. When the registration for the Sovereign Tournament began, Kaze reported it to Luin, and with Lu Yin's approval, he was allowed to participate. He wanted to make a name for himself in the Sovereign Tournament. He did not want to become as famous as Luin and the others, but he wanted to at least be recognized as part of the top 100 rankings. Luin and Chao Ji were not weak, as they both had the power level of an explorer. If they had faced Kaze in the past, they would have been able to defeat him if they worked together. However, they were facing Kaze, who had followed Luin for many years, and the current Kaze was not someone they could deal with. Luin was the first to be defeated, as his voice was not even on the same level as Bai Ling's. He was unable to cause any direct damage to Kaze, and he was defeated by Kaze's pure physical strength. Chao Ji was proficient in battle force, and she also had the monsoon battle technique, which used the winds of the 4 seasons to corrode a person's body. It was a very powerful battle technique, but no matter how powerful a battle technique was, it still needed to be complemented by powerful strength. Compared to Kaze, Chao Ji was still slightly weaker, and she was swept aside by him. The students of Astral 9 were helpless, as there was nothing to regret about being defeated by an expert from the top 100 rankings. There were countless cultivators of the same generation in the Innerverse and Outerverse, but only 100 people could enter the rankings, and Kaze was clearly not ranked at the bottom. After defeating Luin and Chao Ji, Kaze was exhausted. These 2 were not weak, and if they were in the same realm, he might not have been able to win. As he thought about it, he looked up at the pass and at Luin. He had once been a genius of the dire barbarian clan, but his fate had changed because of this person. Even if the Innerverse and Outerverse had been connected and the dire barbarian clan had summoned him, he had not returned. He was very smart, and following this person was much better than staying in the dire barbarian clan. The clan's resources would only be given to Avery, not to him. Thank you for your support, brothers. Thank you. End of chapter. These two were not weak when they worked together, and they were enough to cause trouble for someone like Kool-Aid. If they were eliminated by the Prime Clear, then it would prove that the Prime Clear was deliberately targeting Eternal Sky Island, which would lead to conflict. There was no need to worry about the Prime Clear's mountain pass. As he thought about it, he scanned the eastern mountain peak and finally fixed his gaze on Tong Zhan. When he saw Tong Zhan participate in the competition, Lu Yin was shocked. This person had been crippled by him, but he had still been able to recover. It was a pity that his strength had not improved at all. When Lu Yin looked at Tong Zhan paused and raised his head to stare at Lu Yin with a bone-deep killing intent. He believed that no one in the entire Sixth Mainland could surpass his hatred for Lu Yin. Even if he died, he would fight this person one more time. He had seen the little arrow saint's miserable state, and he knew that he was no match for this person. However, he was already a cripple with no hope of improving himself. The Tong family had already given up on him, so he only wanted to fight this person fair and square. Lu Yin retracted his gaze and ignored Tong Zhan. He looked at the rune lines of all the competitors on the eastern mountain, and the one with the most numbers was Invisible Light. However, Invisible Light did not rush through the mountain pass and instead continued to stare at Bai Ling. He was restraining Bai Ling. Otherwise, with Bai Ling's innate battle technique, she might cause everyone on the eastern mountain to withdraw from the competition. Bai Ling did not continue to attack and instead charged towards the mountain pass. She stared at Lu Yin with a serene gaze. Would this person stop her? Lu Yin did not stop her and allowed her to pass. Many of the Sixth Mainland's cultivators relaxed. I've been updating for 3 days straight and I'm a little tired. Thank you brothers for your support.